At this moment, I can remember how this whole journey turned out because I've lived through it before. But as soon as I step out of the TARDIS, the timelines will change. It'll be me who does all this, and I won't remember what happened the first time around because it won't have happened yet.
I didn't expect this.
There he is, the blonde one.
You're quite sure this doctor is a Persian spy?
Why should she want to tell people I'm a spy?
Perhaps she's a witch.
Does the weight of history rest on the Doctor's shoulders?
Yes. Yes, it does. There's someone in there. Someone who's gone missing from the world.
What have I done?
Hi everyone, TARDIS Guide 123 here, and today I'm going to be reviewing the 200th main range release, or monthly range, whichever you like to call it. It is The Secret History by Eddie Robson, and this is the final part of the Locum Doctors trilogy. And, well, it basically features the 5th Doctor in a First Doctor story alongside Peter Purvis and Maureen O'Brien as Stephen Taylor and Vicki, who I don't believe had a surname actually, at least not on the TV series. There's probably a book or something that's gave her one, but anyway, let's just take a look at this cover. This is rather a beautiful cover, I think. Nothing compared to what would actually later come, but there have been some wonderful covers coming up in the second half of the year, but this one is quite good as well. You've got the new logo up there. Can I still call it new since it's being used for about 9 months now? Well, we call it new. And you've got the cast, as I mentioned there, featuring Graham Garden and Lizette Anthony. You've got the 5th Doctor right there in the First Doctor background. I don't like that much. I think they did a wonderful job with the 6th Doctor integrating him into the 2nd Doctor one. The 3rd Doctor one with the 7th Doctor, that one went quite well, but this one just feels lazy, to be honest. It doesn't feel like it's been integrated that well. It just seems like the normal one, except instead of the Starfield background, it's just a bit of a First Doctor title sequence going on a bit there. It's rather unfortunate. And then on the front there, we have 200th Big Finish Doctor Who release, not strictly true, I guess, fitting monthly / main range in there would have been a bit too much, but anyway. And you've got Brand New Adventures right under that, and at the bottom there you have full cast audio drama. Quite a busy cover. You've got the 5th Doctor right there, 2 Medusa heads with some little bits of the 5th Doctor title sequence going around there, and then towards the bottom here you have some bits of the 1st Doctor title sequence if you can make them out. Then you've got Stephen Taylor and Vicki there, a strange, mysterious hooded figure right there, and you've also got sort of like a chariot right there, and I believe that's supposed to be the Hippodrome in the background. So that's the cover for you. Now take a look on the side. Of course, got 200 written down there for the 200th release. Doctor Who: The Secret History written on the side there, and on the back here you have all of this wonderful stuff, directed by Barnaby Edwards, who hasn't directed much in a while actually, so he's returned. This is sort of like his grand return. And also here you have the Doctor Who logo, and all the standard stuff right there. Cast right there, which does contain spoilers, oddly enough. I would not recommend looking at the cast if you haven't listened to this story, although you've probably guessed who the villain is already. Yeah, more on that later. Big Finish did not cover that up so well. But anyway, here it is again. We've got the alternative stuff going on here with the 5th Doctor design instead of the 1st Doctor design, which was a bit odd. I was honestly expecting them to do the respective Doctors' designs rather than their own Doctor, but anyway. And then here is Disc 1 and Disc 2, and in the background here you have other releases. 2 5th Doctor trilogies, the Key to Time one from 2009 I believe, and the one from 2014, sorry, with just Nissa and the 5th Doctor. Now then, let's take a look at the booklet, if I can just get that out. Yeah, not much going on, to be honest. I mean, it's a shame that they had to cut it down, especially just before the 200, because there could have been so much good stuff in here, but instead it's just standard. Coming up next, and other Doctor Who magazine and production credits right there. Nice image there. You can see what I was saying about the covers getting much better. That is a wonderful cover for We Are the Daleks. But anyway, you know, I guess the only thing that's really special about this release in terms of packaging is the fact that it's got 200th Big Finish Doctor Who release written right there. But anyway, you don't have a special and just make the packaging special. You have a special, make the story special. And they've sort of like done that with the entire Locum Doctor trilogy, which is an interesting idea. I will say that it's a very interesting idea, kind of like swapping around the Doctors. Is it just a gimmick? Arguably, but you know, it's just fun to have that anyway, and you know, it works as a gimmick. I guess it's a gimmick that I don't feel is just a gimmick. But anyway, you know, the story itself, it sort of like explains the whole reason for that gimmick as well, and I'll talk more about how I feel about that later. But let's just talk about the story itself. And during the first half, especially part 1, it does feel pretty much like a standard First Doctor story with the Fifth Doctor thrown in there. And actually, if we look on the discs here, they do have their own individual titles, like the First Doctor stories did up until the Savages. And it is The Gothic War, The Last Roman. If I turn this over, you have The Catastrophe Cure and The Twists of Fate. So that's The Gothic War first. But as I was just saying, The Gothic War very much feels like a standard First Doctor story, or historical more accurately. And you know, it's a lot of fun actually. It's a lot of fun to just have this TARDIS crew running around. You get the standard Locum Doctor stuff of, you're not the Doctor, oh yes I am, so something that shows he's the Doctor pretty much. And then, unlike last time where you had either Jamie doubting him throughout first half of the story and Joe doubting him as well throughout the story, this time they do accept it quite quickly. Actually, they have fully accepted it by the end of the first episode. Vicki accepts it instantly, and Stephen takes a little bit longer, but he pretty much accepts that he's the Doctor. However, they don't really have much time to interact, at least Stephen and the Doctor. Stephen very quickly gets split up and follows his own half of the story with Quintus, and that continues on to part 3, The Catastrophe Cure, and that's all very interesting. So it's mostly the Doctor and Vicki, along with Procopius and Belisarius, that's it. They are very interesting names, but then again this is set in Rome, and sorry, not Rome, set in Italy, and you know, it's quite like those characters, Procopius and Belisarius. Belisarius is a bit annoying at first, especially in The Last Roman, which is part 2 by the way. I feel that there are some things that don't sit right with him, but during part 1 he's fine, and during part 3 he is also fine. It's just something that happens in part 2 which makes you think, nah. So yeah, that's him. But Procopius, he is a very nice character and has very interesting dynamic with Vicki as well, and that's all quite fun. And you know, if you have listened to The Gothic War for free, because it is available for free if you subscribe to the Big Finish newsletter, one thing I will say is it's not very representative of the rest of the story. I wouldn't say it's separate from the rest of the story in any way, but I would say the story takes a completely different turn eventually, and becomes something that's very different from a Hartnell historical, and then a bit later on it becomes something that's very different from just a Hartnell story in general, and doesn't even feel like a Fifth Doctor story actually. Take it as you will, I guess. It's sort of like mainly to do with the fact that they're trying to tie up the Locum Doctor's plot point. But yeah, I'll talk more about that when we get on to Twists of Fate. But anyway, now we have Stephen and Quintus. And Quintus is a very interesting character in this. I can't say too much about him, but he has quite a nice relationship with Stephen during the first half of the story. And you know, Stephen gets to do all the fun stuff of sort of like getting a job and whatnot to pay his way back to Ravenna, and then ended up in a chariot race, which is quite fun. That's all very good stuff. While the Doctor and Vicki sort of like handle the important part of the story, The Doctor spends a fair bit of time being locked up, which is okay. I guess it allows Procopius and Vicki to do their thing quite a bit, but nevertheless, is a bit of a downer to have the Doctor cut off once again from one of his companions, given that the whole point of the Locum Doctor's trilogy, if you will, is for him to interact with the companion and for you to see how the dynamic is different. But anyway, that's just how it is. And then moving on to the twists of fate now. I've been putting it off for quite a while because it's quite challenging to talk about, especially without going into spoilers. And just a heads up, I am going to split this review in two almost. So we're going to have a spoiler-free section, which I'm at the moment. Then I'll rate it, for those of you who don't want to get spoiled. And then I'm going to go into a spoiler section where I talk about spoilers in this. So be warned, I'll tell you when that comes up. But anyway, for now, the twists of fate is a rather odd conclusion. It very much is cut off from the rest of the story in a lot of ways. And the resolution is quite weak because it's almost like a part on its own, really. It's almost like a one-part story in a lot of ways, and that's hard to explain without you having listened to it. So if you've listened to it, you'll probably know what I mean. But unfortunately, the resolution is rather quick, and I kind of wish that it had been a longer story, so that part could have been spent a lot more time on. And the whole resolution to the idea of the Locum Doctor's trilogy, it's okay, I guess. It's a bit unfortunate. It's a bit obvious who the villain is. Most of you probably guessed by now. But yeah, it is rather unfortunate that it just feels like there could have been much more done. And if the stories had been quite good, then it would have gotten away with it. But unfortunately, the Defectors, I haven't reviewed either the Defectors or Last of the Cybermen yet, but I'm going to give a quick little bit of thoughts on it. I would say the Defectors is okay, but rather disappointing. It doesn't feel a whole lot like a Third Doctor story in a lot of ways. And then the Last of the Cybermen is the dynamic between the the Doctor and companions is good, but unfortunately the story itself is rather poor, and it doesn't feel at all like a Second Doctor story, especially towards the end. And then once again, that has a part 4 which feels cut off from the rest of the story. But now bringing it back round to the concluding parts. Yeah, it works out okay, I guess, with a Secret History. Not the best part of the trilogy, but not the worst either. It's just a meh ending, I guess. And it starts off strong as well. I think this probably would have been the best part of the whole Locum Doctor's trilogy if it didn't have to conclude everything. If it had just been like Last of the Cybermen or the Defectors, where it was about kind of like the Doctor being displaced and being with his different companions, and he just had a Hartnell historical thrown in there like that, then it would have been a marvellous piece. It really would. But unfortunately, it has all that to tie up and quite a bit of other stuff going on as well, which means it ends up being rather disappointing because the whole reveal is disappointing, and that's basically the backbone of the story in a lot of ways, and a backbone for the 200th release as well. So yeah, now I'm going to rate it, and I will rate it a 7. Yeah, a 7 I will say, because it's enjoyable, especially the Gothic War, and then The Last Roman, yeah, it's good, and then the Catastrophe Cure is when it starts interesting. But unfortunately, all that interest is dropped, and it sort of gets reset during the Twists of Fate, which provides a rather disappointing conclusion to what could have been a great release, a great 200th release. And it's a good 200th release, but I wouldn't say it's a great 200th release, which is a shame. But anyway, now on to the next milestone, I guess. And now, if you are going to leave me, then thank you for watching. But if you're going to stick around for the spoiler part, then we will begin right now. So if everyone's gone who doesn't want to be spoiled, let's begin. And of course, what am I going to talk about first? It's the monk. What? don't know why they have stuck such an obvious twist right on the front cover there in plain sight. You know, some people sort of like dismissed it as too obvious, but unfortunately they did go with that. They did go with the monk, and actually, and also Graham Garden is right there, and he's even on the cast list on the back listed as the monk. Yeah, I'm not sure what Big Finish were playing at there, because it's sort of like meant to be a big reveal. They didn't explicitly say it, but they stuck the monk on the cover pretty much. And I don't know why, because he's supposed to be in disguise in this. He wouldn't be going around in his monk get-up, and I don't think he ever was in his monk get-up, except maybe in the Twisted Fate when he was had taken over the Doctor's time stream. Yeah, I feel like that whole thing as well could have been much better done. That could have been a whole story by itself, really, having the monk take over the Doctor's time stream. And, you know, also I wish we'd sort of like seen a bit more of that during the last assignment in Secret History, because if they were going to do kind of like a big arc, then you don't really have to have listened to the Defectors or Last Assignment to listen to this. And, you know, it would have been nice if they put the monk in those two stories as well, maybe somehow, just sort of like in the background, not as the main character. Maybe having Graham Garden listed on all of them would have spoiled it a bit, I don't know, unless they revealed it in the Defectors. But that's just the way it ended up being, and you know, it's rather unfortunate, to be honest. However, I did have a lot of fun with Stephen's half of the story. As I previously said, his half of the story is probably the most interesting, with him doing the chariot races bit. The floating Medusa heads taking over the King and Queen, the Emperor and Empress, was okay. I guess it's a bit ridiculous having the floating heads. But, you know, that's the least of the story's troubles. And also, Peter Purvis and Maureen O'Brien during the last part, their acting just feels a little bit forced, to be honest, when they're sort of like talking to the monk as the Doctor. And at the same time, you think if the monk had taken over the Doctor's time stream and kind of like started right at the start, presumably all his memories intact, it's very complicated how that works. But wouldn't he have already changed the timelines dramatically anyway? And probably wouldn't have met Stephen and Vicki, I don't know. Or because it's sort of like implied that he and his companions go around meddling. Would, well, that'd be interesting to see the effect that had on the Aztecs with Barbara and whatnot. Because surely they would have changed history loads of times already. And, yeah, it's just a bit odd that. But live and let live, I guess. I don't know why I just said that, but if you enjoy this story, that's fine. I personally, well, I also enjoyed this story for the most part, up for I didn't. So, that is my thoughts. Thank you for those of you who did stick around for the spoiler bit, a little bit of a spoiler right at the end there. I hope you enjoyed. I will be reviewing the other two parts of this as well, the Last of the Cybermen and the Defectors eventually, but 200th release, bit disappointing. The whole Open Doctors trilogy was a bit disappointing. I think maybe it would have worked better if it was an entire trilogy of just one Doctor being displaced, and him and his companions sort of like travelling about trying to work out what's happened. Maybe that would have been better. Maybe having 3 trilogies of that until it's finally revealed. I don't know, one every year, build that up to the 200th release, and have the 200th release being the final part of the final trilogy. God knows, but yeah, that's just my thoughts on this. So thank you everyone for watching, and I will see you all next time, I guess. Bye everyone.